Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Listen podcast. Really appreciate you guys for tuning in. My guest today is a sports television personality that has genuinely done it all, from The Score to TSN to Bleacher Report, now with Sportsnet. A Canadian legend and someone I am very grateful to call my friend, Cabbie.
I appreciate you, man. I didn't know this is the name of the podcast, but I'm such a fan of Uncle Yusuf and this character that you play on social. Man, and I'm being honest. When I see the thumbnail, I start laughing because I know it's going to be hilarious. There's always like a twist, and this character that you've created, this Persian uncle, is so hilarious. So much judgment. Kyle's always catching strays. I mean, your audience who's watching, they know, I'm sure they've seen several of your clips. You've got probably hundreds. The listen is amazing. The thing you do with your fingers is amazing. Like, you really transform into this character, and I love it.
Thank you so much. I'm
a huge fan of yours.
No, man, I'm a huge. It's crazy because I mean, I grew up watching you. Like,
thank you, man.
You know, Cabbie on the Street, Cabbie Presents, and then. It's interesting how we kind of just met out of nowhere. Do you remember how we first met, or the first time actually meeting in person?
We must have been at Sportsnet, right? Where
we were.
You must have been recording. Well, you and Kyle were doing Big League Chew for a few months.
Yeah.
But we must have met before. No, I don't remember how we.
It was. I think it was home opener for the Jays maybe 2 seasons ago. And we were in one of the boxes with SN Bets, and like everyone was just placing bets, and we were watching. I think it was the Jays.
Then I must. Wait, was that the first time we met in real life? Because I invited you to come.
Yeah. Which I was like, I've never even met Cabbie, but like, of course, 100%.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And then you guys had a lot of optimism because we were up like 4-1, and then we ended up losing 12-6 to Texas. I don't know how I remember this. And that's okay. It was. That was called Wager Week, and it was like the end of Wager Week. It was like April 4th to the 10th. Now it's coming back to me. I'm not sure how you popped up on my radar, though. Well, obviously must have been Instagram because I'm not that big on TikTok.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, who is this young, funny mother bleeper? And that's okay. I didn't realize that was the first time that we met. I'm an idiot. But I'm glad we met because you make great stuff, and you've helped out the SM Bets brand for its short lifespan.
Yeah.
And we did a lot of fun stuff. I don't know if I could.
Yeah, you can curse. Do it. Yeah, whatever you want. And then I remember, I don't know if it was the same season, but then we went to another Jays game where we were in like just the regular stands, and then you made me and Kyle go ask fans to buy us hot dogs.
That's right.
And went against 2 other people, and we ended up winning, so we didn't have to eat the hot dog with all kinds of nasty stuff.
It was disgusting by the end. But yeah, and then I remember one point you were just like, you tried to like mobilize your TikTok, really like, I need help. And then you guys, I don't know, you guys ended up getting like over 15 or 20 free hot dogs. And these are like, foot long. These are nothing at Rogers Center is cheap.
Yeah.
So, people just, out of the graciousness of their hearts, they obliged you to, and you guys won. So.
Yeah, I remember literally taking my story and saying, guys, I need your help. Someone buy me a hot dog. And I was like, honestly, I'll pay you back after once the camera stopped rolling. I didn't pay anyone back, but.
So wait, did you blow up because of Uncle Yusuf, or what were you doing before?
Yeah, so it wasn't Uncle Yusuf. So the story is basically COVID hit. I was in my 3rd year of university at Ryerson, or now TMU, studying sport media. But after 1 more month, the semester finished. There wasn't work because of COVID. So I just started posting some videos online on TikTok. And the first video I posted that really caught some traction was, I don't know if you remember during COVID on CP24, it was like every day Trudeau would come out and give his little speech or whatever. Same thing with Rob Ford.
Some update about like policies or mandates or whatever because
exactly.
we're in COVID. Okay,
yeah. And in the bottom right, there was always an interpreter who was doing the sign language for whoever was speaking. And I don't know how this thought came to me, but I was just watching the interpreter, and it like looked like she was putting up like gang signs and like all kinds of just stuff. I'm like, I want to make a video about what it looks like she's saying rather than what she's saying. So I just took like a small clip of it. I voiced it over with like a Toronto man accent, and that video
Toronto
blew
Mans,
up.
That's right.
Yeah. So then that was the first thing that started to blow up, and then I was like, okay, like what if Trudeau was a Toronto man? That was the next big the next big like video that started going viral, and then I just created my own Toronto Man character DK.
That's right.
And that was
Toronto
how I
Man's very
initially
funny.
blew up, and then somewhere
And now
along
you've
the road,
elevated, you've leveled up with Uncle Yusuf. Like now you're probably like people overseas are watching your videos on TikTok and is for sure, and they're laughing their asses off because like I know this character so well.
Yeah,
like this character's in my home, telling me to get off my phone. Like I'm wasting time because a father or uncle or older brother is yelling at me because I'm on my phone too much.
Yeah, it's honestly pretty crazy because with the DK character, honestly, the big reason I stopped doing it was because I kind of just got bored with the character. I wasn't really enjoying it anymore. But it's interesting you say that because at the time, 80% of my followers were Toronto, not just Canada, like Toronto. And now with the Uncle Yusuf character, at first when I introduced him, people didn't want him. They were like, no, we want DK content, we want DK content. But I was like, no, I think this content's funny. I'm going to keep riding it. And now it's like I have more followers in Sydney than Toronto.
Australia?
Sydney, Australia. I have more followers in London, England than Toronto.
Awesome.
I have more followers in Dubai than Toronto. It's like
Awesome.
It really is global. So it's great to see. And you're right. It's like it's not even just appealing to Middle Eastern people. Like I get so many comments from people from like Romania, Brazil, Italy, and they're like, it's not even an Arabic character. It's an immigrant parent with an Arabic twist. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yes. I love the heavy judgment, man. And even when you do the principal. And just telling you, like, kids are like a principal from like 1987 with no 2024 sensibilities. Yeah. It just says whatever the hell he wants. Like, I love it. So please continue going.
Thank you so much. I want to ask, what are you doing in Toronto?
I'm here. So I come into the city. So I live in Calgary, Alberta, and I come into the city once a week. Sorry, once a month for about a week.
Once a week.
Yeah, no, that'd be a lot. Once a month, just to take meetings, brainstorms. Sometimes we shoot. This week I don't have any shoots, but have had a couple of brainstorms and some meetings, just planning content. So we're coming into baseball season. We're obviously coming into the NHL playoffs and NBA playoffs. So there's always a lot of energy around March and September, as you know, March leading into playoffs, most important time for those two sports, NBA and NHL, and then September winding down MLB and then ramping up into NHL and NBA.
You miss Toronto, living here?
Some parts of it. I lived downtown at like Bathurst and King for like 10 years. And every day I'd get angry because I'd see so much dog crap on the streets. I'm like, why? Like people don't. So I moved uptown. I moved to like Bayview and I bought a house at Bayview and Lawrence, like in that area. Less dog poop. And I was very happy about that. Also, when I lived downtown, bro, I got so many parking tickets.
Too many.
There was 1 year where you have to renew your plates every year to get that sticker. My bill was $1,100. I was like, F this. So I was already sort of tightening my belt to like save up to like buy a crib, but that just put a battery in my back. I'm like, I can't just be giving away money for free. Yeah. Like my parents, you talk about immigrants, they play the lotto. They play the Wednesday lotto and the Saturday lotto because their dream is like, oh, I want to win the lotto. I'm like, you're giving your money back. You guys are on fixed incomes. Yeah. You only make, I don't know what it is. Like, my two parents are retired. Whatever that number is a month, maybe call it $5,000. You're giving back like $800 of that $5,000 on the dream of winning the lotto. And another way that we get taxed is parking, and parking tickets for sure has to be a line item on the revenue side of the city ledger that generates millions of dollars, because there are absolute savages like the parking overlords and ninjas that come and just, you know, they'll mark your tire sometimes with like a little chalk and like, I'm going to come back and if this car is still here, you're getting a ticket. But and that's maybe if they mark your tire, but most of the time just you're getting a ticket. It's automated. They punch it into the matrix and the friggin' ticket spits out in 17 seconds. You can't even negotiate with the person.
Yeah, I know for me, so my girlfriend and I, we live downtown, like Queen and Bathurst. And I mean, it's great for what I do, what she does. She's a boxing instructor in the city. But I've like born and raised a suburbs kid, and I love the suburbs. Like as soon as we get the opportunity to, we're moving to like a house. You know, I want a backyard for like dog to run around and like.
Bro, you're gonna have to move to like Waterloo or something, man, or like Bradford, Ontario.
Yeah, the GTA isn't realistic anymore.
Wait a second, your girl is a boxing instructor.
Instructor, yeah. Like boxing classes, so not like she's not training like.
She's not training.
She's not training boxers to necessarily go and like be in a like an amateur or professional boxing match, but she teaches boxing classes. It's called Rumble.
I just did one a couple days ago. It's the hardest workout.
Was it Barry's?
No, I'm going to go to Barry's tonight. Barry's is great. Group fitness. You're on the treadmill for half of it. You're on the floor for the other half doing lunges or presses or push-ups or V-sits or whatever. But this TKMT, I think is the name of the gym. So Toronto Kickboxing Martial Arts something. Anyway, but it is just to, and I know this is, some people will listen to this and some people watch it, but just to like imagine, right now I'm pantomiming like a jab with my left and a cross with my right. Just doing that for 30 seconds in the air, it gets tiring.
100%.
But then you got gloves on and you're hitting a bag, your shoulders are burning. And bro, that's just 30 seconds.
Yeah.
The whole workout is an hour.
Yeah.
Man, I was dead, dude. I was sweating in the warm-up. And I think the instructor, not your girl, took it easy on me.
Yeah.
We were just, but bro, I was like, I need water.
Yeah.
After 15 minutes. So that's how out of shape I am. So have you gone to one of her?
I've gone to like 5 or 6. You should try it. Next time you're in Toronto, let me know. We'll take the class together.
What is it like taking instruction from your girl? Like, because that's a dynamic change.
Yeah.
Unless that's how it is in your home.
So with her or the whole concept of Rumble boxing is it's like nightclub meets fight club. So it's like the lights are going to the beat of the music. The lights are like the rest of the lights are dark. Like it's
are
just
there
you
colorful
in the box.
lights in there, like purple and blue and green?
Exactly.
Okay.
And like honestly, my girlfriend, she's like a superstar. She makes like every class she makes a different playlist. So like she had a class last night. It was 2010s hits, and
Nice.
She had one this morning. It's 2000s hits and like stuff like that. But it's not. She's very like. She's not one of the types of instructors that's super like pushy, like,
Okay.
or she's very like motivational and like trying to keep you up and like positive. And it's very much like, it's not necessarily about doing it right. It's just about like doing what you can do, and getting a good sweat going. So I've enjoyed taking her class. It's a good time.
What kind of instructor do you prefer? The instructor that's like aggressive and like telling you like, come on, 3 more, like almost like drill sergeant-esque? Or do you prefer an instructor that just gives you the exercises, like almost talks to you? Or someone that's like in the middle, like, all right, well, maybe bark some exercises and then towards the end of it, then ramp up their energy. Where on the spectrum do you prefer your instructors?
Yeah, I think I'm somewhere in the middle because I've talked to my girlfriend about this before. And like I said, she's very like positivity and like taking care of yourself and that kind of stuff. And like at the end, during the cool down, like she's very motivational.
Okay.
And I've told her, I'm like, oh, that's not necessarily what I need. I get why she does it for the class. And there's a lot of people that need that motivation, need someone to push them. For me, I don't necessarily need that. So I told her like, that's the only part of the class that isn't necessarily for me. But I know for the vast majority of the people that take her class, it is for them.
Okay.
So I'd say somewhere in the middle. I need I need a push and some aggression, but not to overdo it.
Gotcha,
You know what
okay.
I mean?
I wonder if that's because we're dudes. Like I'm sort of
Maybe.
in the middle too. But I had one trainer, his name's Corey Sam, who would just talk to me, and I really love that. And he'd be like, "Yo, Cab, I know you're dying right now, bro, but we got 20 more reps." And then I've had on the other side, like in a group cycling class, where the instructor is just like on 11. I'm like, I can't take this, man. Like, no. I'm not pushing for 45 seconds. I'm going to have a nice like Sunday stroll on the Toronto Islands, renting a bike. Like, no, I'm rejecting your instruction or whatever. So anyway, I'm kind of more in the middle.
Yeah. I had a question for you.
Yeah.
Because the way
I hope you have several.
I have many. The way you do interviews and have been doing interviews for a long time now is very different than the traditional style. Where did that kind of motivation come from for you to go in a different direction in terms of like how you talk to athletes? You're way more personable. You ask, funny questions. You're not necessarily always asking like the hard-hitting questions, but you get to show a bit more of yourself. And I wouldn't even say it's definitely not a character, because after like meeting you and being friends with you, it truly is just you being your authentic self.
Thanks.
But that's not the way traditional sports interviews go. So where did that kind of come from? What made you want to do that?
It was because I saw so many traditional interviews and hearing so many cliched answers that I want to reject that premise. And I wanted to be friends with a lot of these athletes. So I took some cues from a guy named Hits from the Streets, who was a character on BET in the late 90s, and he would go out in the street and interview. He would do streeters, but he would insult people a lot, and I'm like, I'm not that. I don't have that in me. I prefer to be self-deprecating because I think it's more endearing to the audience. And Conan O'Brien, someone who just, I love the way he interviews people. I probably bored from Conan O'Brien as well. It's certainly the self-deprecating piece. But I wanted people to be my friends. So like I didn't want to go in and I certainly didn't want like robot mode, which is what I call generally hockey players and baseball players give the same. Like if you see a Bo Bichette interview, it's like he's just going to give you just meat and potatoes, cliches all day. So I always tried harder to come up with questions that wouldn't elicit those standard responses. And none of them were journalistic. I was there for the entertainment, and I don't know when I'm like consciously made that choice, like, okay, I'm going to entertain first and inform second, but somewhere along the process of me doing streeters in 2001, when I would go to college and university campuses, because generally the people were my own age, or I would just post up at like Young and Bloor, or I post up on the Danforth, or I would go to Jane and Finch where I grew up, and I'd just play basketball against random people. And lose all the time. I wanted to carve out a lane that was different from my colleagues at the Score at the time. So guys in the field were James Sobolski was doing reports, Elliot Friedman was doing reports. Who else? I think David Lannis, I believe, at the time was a field reporter. I think he was covering Blue Jays. And then anybody on TSN, and in Sportsnet too. Like it was just like. It just made me feel not gross, but I was just like, this is so boring.
Yeah.
And I wanted to inject some life and personality into the interviewing game. And thankfully I was able to convince some people to come along with me, like athletes, like, oh, I get what this is. So I'll have fun with this person and I'll lower my guards. And it's worked out pretty nicely.
Where do you think that came from? You said that, traditionally you get a lot of cliche answers. Do you think like what came first, the cliche answers or the cliche questions? Like, do you think it was the reporters that brought it, so the athletes just kind of got used to saying the same thing, or the athletes are kind of not forced, but they're PR trained and they're kind of told to say the same thing, so then the reporters just started asking the same questions?
I don't know if they were that PR trained back in that day. There is definitely media training now, and certainly in the social media era, like you have to be guys are very aware of their brands and like how things can be clipped out and then used against them. I think the cliche questions must have come first.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, yeah, because like, what do you got to do to win the game? We got to give 110%. Ooh, now it's a chicken or the egg question. We got to play our game. Got to give 110%. We got to get the pucks in deep. But I imagine the athletes. That's a great question.
Yeah.
I imagine the athletes would be either bored. They probably just retreated to these standard cliche questions or answers because the questions weren't that exciting. Or, I don't know. I think of like Howard Cosell had this legendary relationship with Muhammad Ali. And Muhammad Ali is considered the GOAT of boxing. Howard Cosell might be one of the GOATs of broadcasting and sports journalism. But their relationship was friendly, it was adversarial, it was entertaining. And I don't think Howard really asked Muhammad like standard questions, but Muhammad Ali is not. He's like maybe the greatest soundbite of all time. So I really shouldn't use that example. That is a wonderful question, Jesse. No one's asked me that before. And I don't think I have a great answer. That's a wonderful question.
Another question I have, I hope it's just as good, is do you find it more difficult now, 2024, getting those types of interviews and getting players to join along and kind of be part of that type of interview? Or do you think it was easier back in the day? Because I feel like from one side, like I feel like teams and athletes understand how important social media is and how important these clips are and trying to be more human than athletes were back in the day. But I feel like at the same time, everyone's scared of saying the wrong thing, and not just the athletes, but the teams and their agents and the PR and everyone. So is it harder or easier now to get interviews?
Harder to get interviews now, easier to stand out back in the day. Because I was, myself and my producer, Dave Crix, together we carved out this lane which didn't exist. And we saw the changing of the guard where like teams would have social media managers. Well, obviously we started before the social media became a thing. I mean, I started in 2001, and then Twitter really popped in like 12, 13. 12, 13. And then Instagram pops in like 15, 16-ish. And then TikTok pops 18, 19, maybe more 19. Or probably actually during the pandemic.
Yeah,
probably
like 19, 20.
Really popped. But teams investing in social media managers, that really started changing in the teens, the 20 teens. You would go to games and you would see like, all right, 60 seconds with this player. Like, who's the funniest? Like, they would be asking jokey questions to the player, so you get to learn about the personalities a little bit and maybe root for them a little bit harder. So easier back then to stand out and to ask questions because a lot of questions hadn't been asked of athletes. Harder now to get access to athletes because they understand that they're brands and they understand that the power of social media, and they don't necessarily need traditional media to tell their stories anymore. I still think, obviously, because I'm in traditional media, I still think there's value for someone else to tell part of your story or to amplify parts of your life or your charity endeavors or your actual game. You know, we can amplify that on this side as well as what your team accounts are doing and your own personal accounts are doing. But, bro, it is weirdly, like I did this interview with Norm Powell the other day. Norm Powell plays for the Clippers. And Norm and I were talking for like a year about doing an interview. And I would consider Norm a friend. I've been out with him a few times, having many adult beverages. Me, the one consuming them.
Not Norman.
Like, you finish the rest of that bottle? No, all right, just slide it over here. But it just took so long to to come to fruition. One of his teammates, Paul George, I interviewed him in 2014. And I did one of my favorite bits ever where I got him to draw a self-portrait. So I showed up at morning shoot-around, and I was like, Paul, you have great style. You can, the way that you play, you're so effortless, you're so smooth. You have a certain artistry to your game. Can you bring this artistry onto the page? So I got him, Kevin Love, Kevin Love was with Minnesota.
Oh, that was monster Kevin Love. Double,
like
easy.
28
20 and 20.
And 18s or 20 and 12s on the regular. Brandon Jennings and Kyle Lowry. So the Paul, Kevin, and I'm getting to the point of the story. Brandon Jennings actually kind of took it serious, and they tried to draw. I just took media day headshots, and they tried to draw their faces, and it was really funny. And Kyle drew God, what was that animated series? Same creators as The Simpsons. Not The Simpsons, not Family Guy, but
American
the one.
Dad.
Not American Dad, but there's like a robot in.
Futurama.
Futurama.
Yeah.
So Kyle drew his face looking like the robot in Futurama, and it was comedically brilliant. Bro, 2014 is the last time I interviewed Paul George, and he played for Indiana, and then he went to Oklahoma City, and then he went to maybe there's another stop in between there. I haven't been able to get that guy, and I've been sending out requests forever.
Yeah.
So and that's not just specific to Paul George. I've had similar challenges where. And listen, I'm Canadian, and a lot of these guys, I mean, Paul might recognize my face, wouldn't know my name. And I'm largely anonymous to American players, certainly like younger dudes, even though I've been able to do some cool stuff in my career. It's still challenging, dude. Mm-hmm. So it is harder now. Guys know that they're brands. Basketball has been leading the content, setting the tone and leading the race in the content game and changing the landscape, starting with LeBron, who's like, I'm going to have my own media platform called The Uninterrupted. And LeBron is a game changer, force multiplier in many ways, but just guys took his lead. Mm-hmm. And I was just talking to somebody the other day, like, so many basketball dudes specifically have podcasts.
Paul George.
Paul George has one. DeMar DeRozan just launched one. Dwayne Wade has a podcast. Carmelo Anthony's got a podcast.
Pat Bev,
yeah. Jeff Teague, Draymond Green, Trae Young has one. I think D'Angelo Russell. There's like a full team right there.
And some of them are pretty good. Like Jeff Teague, I found more entertainment from his podcast than his entire NBA career.
Yeah.
He was good. He was a good player, but he's so entertaining. The way he tells stories about like just all these stories of back in the day are like
And
amazing.
You speak about authenticity, bro.
Yeah.
Like, him and his boys just, when he told the Jimmy Butler story, like cuts out the Minnesota on the logo on his chest, like that famous Jimmy Butler story in Minnesota, where he just busted Cat and Andrew Wiggins' backside with the bench guys,
string,
with
right?
and was he wearing Timberlands or something? Or maybe he had his phone or keys in his pockets or something. But it was just super flagrant. And then like, minutes later does an interview with Rachel Nichols for like, so he like intended for all that. But Jeff Teague is low key hilarious.
Yeah.
So and in baseball, Mookie Betts is an MVP. Mookie Betts has a podcast. Hockey, not so much. There's just really the Spittin' Chicklets guys, Elliot Friedman and Jeff Merrick do 32 Thoughts. And then, what am I missing? Football, Von Miller had a podcast, or still does. Micah Parsons has one with Bleacher Report. So more guys are taking control of their own narratives, but they should still realize that there is value in still leaning on the traditional media outlets to tell your story.
Absolutely. I think honestly, it's been tough for me too.
You have athletes or entertainers in this scene?
That's what I'm hoping. Yeah,
yes,
there's a few UFC fighters I'm very interested in, like
sick.
even Canadian ones. There's actually a friend of mine, more of a friend of a friend, but he's getting drafted this year to the NFL. So I'm like, maybe I can have him on, but I know it gets complicated once they make it to the big leagues. There's not as many things that they're allowed to do.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Tough.
Was there like a moment for you, a specific moment where you were like, I made it? I know it's hard to ask when you're still going through. I feel like it's easier to answer at the end, because when people ask me that question, I'm like, I'm still.
You're still climbing,
yeah.
Bro. You're still climbing, and you still have years of wild ass imagination to unleash on us, your audience. I don't know if I ever felt like I made it. There have been a few interviews where it felt so great in the moment, and then afterwards, my producer Dave and I, we would just walk away and not say anything. But we were kind of living, we're like basking in the afterglow.
Yeah.
It's like we both just met some baddies, and the baddies are receptive. We're somewhere in Spain.
No words need to be spoken,
or England, and they're like, yeah, we'll come back with you.
Yeah.
Oh, afterglow. So yeah, I've had some of those moments, and I don't know if I would say that I felt like I made it, but they felt special, where the person totally went along with the bit, whatever the bit was, and I guess when people start knowing your name, that's a cool feeling when they'll name check you, not just the first time they meet you, but like when they see you, like, oh, I remember you, or like, oh, what's up? Like Kobe used to call me Cabster. So when I walk in a room and I see him, he'd be like, what's up, Cabster? That always felt awesome.
Yeah.
It's like getting like this superstar now knows who I am because I've annoyed him for so long. Or like when I walk into a room, a locker room, dressing room, clubhouse, when other dudes will see me and they're like, oh, they know something's up. Like, oh, if this guy's here, okay, there's going to be, like, I'm going to stick around and watch what the hell this guy's going to do with one of my teammates. So that's always feels cool. But then I got to perform.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like performing for the camera. Sometimes I'm performing for the room because there are like 40 people watching me with some hijinks about how a guy will tape his knob, tape his stick, or I don't know. I got, this is a super random one, but I got, I did this bit with the LA Kings and I just went to like Jamba Juice and I got these different flavored juices, smoothies, and I got dudes to drink them. I was like, how much do you trust me? We're going to play a game of trust. And then one dude's like, am I going to pass a piss test? I'm like, well, that's the part of the trust. Like, and I just put them in thermoses that we bought from like Target. So they had actually no idea what was in them. So one dude was like, I trust you, but I don't trust this. And those are kind of fun. And having their teammates watch them like, yo, bro, like, are you going to actually do it? That feels cool. But I don't know if I ever felt like I made it.
What about something, what is the piece of content or accomplishment that you have in your professional career that you're most proud of?
Yeah, that's a very tough one. God, I'm proud of it all.
Yeah.
Even the singles. Like to use a baseball analogy, there are moments even in singles that like, this one didn't really connect with the audience, but I'm like, oh, this moment right here is great. Or I got this person to laugh. I mean, one of my goals in every interview is to get the person to laugh. One of the first moments like that felt amazing is I got Allen Iverson to laugh in 2004. I was hosting a show called NBA. So this is 20 years. Excuse me. This is 20 years ago. God, I don't want to ever be the back in my day guy. So
no, you're good. Was he with the Nuggets back then, or was that still?
This is Philadelphia.
Still Philly.
This
okay.
is iconic Allen Iverson doing a Reebok commercial. Baron Davis, Jalen Rose, Iverson. God, I can't remember the other two basketball players, but I think the campaign was like, we got our 5 young, fresh faces. And I got Iverson. I mentioned something about him being a superhero. I'm like, because you take down giants. And I asked him what super. He's like, I'm Superman. Actually, no, he said the line. The superhero I think I am is I'm Superman because I take down giants. And then I brought him some shades and like a few different types of shades to wear. And he wore them. Was like, oh, give me those Wolverine joints. And I think I'd mentioned like, these ones make you look like. It's like, oh, give me those. So he's like repeating something that I gave him, and that was cool. I interviewed one of the ones that are very special is I interviewed Will Ferrell in a bathroom once. We were at a Manny Pacquiao versus Oscar De La Hoya fight at the MGM in 2009, and TNT would do this smart thing. They're like, hey, we're going to invite all these celebs, but in order to go to the fight, you have to pick up your tickets from this party. So all the celebs would come to the party so that they could say to people like their VIPs or whatever, like, oh, these 30 people are coming to this party.
That's so smart.
So smart.
Yeah.
Because they're coming to pick up the tickets. So on the list was Will Ferrell. I'm like, oh, man. So we waited till the very end of this party. Will Ferrell comes. He's wearing this disgusting, Value Village, fur coat. I don't know what animal had to give or what animals gave their lives to make this coat, but it was kind of matted and ratty. And he wore these flip up sunglasses that, they flip up at the brim, at the frame flips up so you can see their eyes. So it just had this amazing look. And I asked him hey, Will, and fortunately I'd interviewed him 6 months prior because he was promoting the film Semi-Pro, and he randomly had come to Toronto to do a stunt or do some media, and I was able to get him there. So I just went, hey, 6 months ago, I was Semi-Pro. I talk real fast because I'm I want to just make sure this person, I could try to engage this person in a short window because you don't know how much time you actually you can get. It's like an elevator pitch. I have 8 seconds or 10 seconds. Do you want to do this thing with me? He agreed. We go into a bathroom. It's a 1-seater. Lock the door. Camera guy, Will Ferrell, me, my producer. 4 adult men in a 1-seater. It was tight and it got hot. The whole thing was 3 minutes, but trying to match widths with Will Ferrell, one of the greatest comedic performers of our time, was very challenging. And I tried to throw him softballs so he can have great moments. And one time he pantomimed punching me in the nuts. And I was like, oh, because I thought he was going to, and he didn't, thank God. But that was a great moment for me. I don't know if I felt like I made it, but he was one of these people that were naturally would play along because his bits up with Conan were some of the greatest talk show bits ever. But anyway, I'm rambling, and I don't even remember the original question. But
I don't even remember. Most proud of.
Most proud of that. That's one that's on the Mount Rushmore. I don't want to wax too much.
Did you get him to laugh?
I got him to laugh. Yeah,
that's huge.
I said about his jacket. I was like, what's your coat made out of? He's like, it's Himalayan house cat. I'm like, oh, I think it needs a Pert Plus bath. And then he laughed at that line, and I was very happy that I was able to activate it or pull it from somewhere in that moment. So,
that's amazing.
Thanks, man.
So Chris, if you could play, I have a sound for you to listen to. I want you to tell me if you recognize this sound. Okay. We're not going to show the video. I just want to know if you know what this is.
Isn't this Cord Cuts? No. It is Court Surfing. And I think that's the Kid Famous. I think he did the...
Does this bring back memories?
Yes, man. The score 2007, 6, 7, maybe even 2005.
Yeah. So the reason I wanted to ask you about court surfing, for me, I think it was very much before its time. Because now, I mean, in the NFL, Red Zone is one of the most popular shows. Everyone knows what Red Zone is if you're a football fan. And I feel like court surfing was really before its time. Like, I think it would be very successful now. Do you think, now, does it just come down to like rights and like not being able to have the rights to all the games? Or like, do you think something like court surfing would work now in 2024?
I think court surfing started earlier than 2005. It may have been like 2002 or 3. Brendan Lynch was I believe the architect of court surfing at the Score. And that was, no, he would do court cuts. I'm sorry. Brendan Lynch cut court cuts, but court surfing, I don't know if maybe Glenn McDonald or Jason Sands started court surfing. Yes, it comes down to rights, for sure.
Yeah.
The broadcaster has to have at least an agreement with the league to show highlights. And at that time, the Score was an NBA partner. So the Score was able to jump from basketball game to basketball game over the course of a 3-4 hour window. And certainly like, all right, well, let's go to Indiana because there's 2 minutes left and Paul George has the ball.
Yeah.
So it would bounce from game to game and certainly highlight games that were coming down to the wire and the game was within, 5-6 points or something like that. Court surfing, and I believe Tim McAuliffe was the first host, and that was probably 2003 or 4, and McAuliffe did it for, 5-6 years before he started doing Tim and Sid. But I think he did court surfing and he would host Score Tonight. So maybe court surfing was like Wednesdays, let's say, and then he would do Score Tonight, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday with Sid. But yeah, that brings back great memories. I have like a warm glow over my body. We had ice. Actually, you know what the first one was? I think the first one was called Diamond Surfing.
Okay.
The Score had an MLB package. I think it was like 4 years.
Interesting.
$32 million or something like that. So the Cubs always played at like 2:00. So there are always Cubs games in the summertime on the Score from 2 to like 5. And then Diamond Surfing was the first iteration. Then it went to ice surfing. And then I think TSN or Sportsnet stole the idea. And I think maybe they complained, so we couldn't do ice surfing anymore. Steve Cooley would host that show. And then court surfing came to be. But that was all early 2000s. And it is before its time. Could it survive now? That's interesting. Maybe the audiences are definitely there for live sporting events. But people your age and maybe some of the people in the audience, they consume so much of their sports content on their phones.
Yeah. It's the second screen that's ruining the live sports kind of.
Oh yeah. Second screen is always there. And sometimes even a third screen. You might have an iPad phone and then like you might have a screen on your wall or on a dresser or something. But that's an interesting one. I don't know. I mean, Red Zone, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's proof that it works. And salute to Scott Hansen.
I think fantasy plays a big role in the success of Red Zone because people want to know when their players are scoring touchdowns, and you see every single touchdown, every single score. But I mean, honestly, Diamond surprises me because I feel like with baseball, it's so hard to know when something is going to happen. Like, it can happen just like that. I feel like it would be a lot of like, well, this just happened in this game, not as much like live.
They would do that. They would roll some play. Oh, this person just hit a home run. Oh, let's go to Colorado and see.
If the bases are loaded, then it's easier. But.
Yeah. And if there are 2 outs in an inning, or if there are runners on, like 7, 8, 9th inning, it was kind of its time, and the Score in so many ways was a leader in Canadian sports TV. The ticker was a big one. The ticker was like the hero of the network because it was always on. Even when the commercials were on, the ticker just did all the heavy lifting with stats and information. And so many personalities came out of that Score era that you see on TV today, from Elliot, Tim, myself, Adnan Verk is at MLB Network. Jackie Redmond's at MLB and NHL Network. Renee's, we're talking about W. Oh no, she's at AEW now.
Yeah.
Renee Weeks on WWE. She's gone back to her actual name, Renee Paquette, on AEW. Just there's a handful of people. I mean, Sid Seixeiro is now on Breakfast Television giving hot takes to like Trudeau and Rob Ford and the Toronto Maple Leafs or whatever.
Well, you were on the Marilyn Denis show for a bit, right?
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was a great learning experience because I had to reprogram my brain because the audiences were polar opposite. The score of the audiences were 18 to 34 males. And generally, like, I can't get away with some of the hijinks I used to do back in 2006. I did a bit with Derek Jeter asking him who his top 5 women are. There's no way I could do that now. And Jeter skirted it. I was like, you want mine? He's like, sure. And I was like, Jennifer Lopez, Naomi Campbell, Heidi Klum.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Halle Berry and somebody else. He's like, that's a pretty good 5.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are your 5s? He's like, man, you can get me in trouble. I'm like, your 5 are like real life 5, bro. Like you've actual access to these women.
Yeah, our dreams are your reality.
No, man. There was a graphic that came out like, I don't know, 1 or 2 years ago where you can like field a baseball team of just some of the women that he's dated. And it's just, anyway, I can't get away. I can't get away with that now. Back in the day, yes, in 2009, sure. It was like, just maybe the culture was starting to change in the 2010s. So Marilyn Denis, the audience was primarily 34 to 49-year-old women, professional women, some women that were homemakers, but, professional women that were like executives and like business people. So it was like I had to be a lot smarter. And my perspective on that show as a contributor was just like the average dude. And I was so fat on that show. Like I was the heaviest, like literally fat, like the heaviest I've ever been in my life. And we were talking about working out earlier, and you're a girl.
Yeah, you look good, man.
And, well, no, I have a lot of work to do. I'm wearing a shirt, but I never take my shirt off. And I've been wearing a lot of black lately just to lie to people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is slimming. And then I'm starting to learn my angles. So I'm like, anyway, bro, I was so fat on that show. Anyway, so I was like the everyman. And Marilyn Denis is wonderful to work with. She's very generous and accommodating, and she was super busy. She had, Marilyn did she's a legend. She had hosted like a radio show for like 30, 35 years, and then was hosting daytime TV for like 20. Her show on CTV was like 13 or 15 years, and before that she did, she was on City Line on City TV for like 10, 12 years. So Marilyn has been in our homes, at least in this market, for like 30 years.
Yeah.
She was wonderful.
It's funny you say that the main demographic there was, you said 35 to 44-year-old women?
Yeah, 34 to 49, kind of in there, yeah.
The funny thing about that is that's my biggest demographic.
What?
Yeah, on Instagram. So
how do you know that
it gives you all the analytics. So I'm basing this off of my followers. My followers are 70% women.
What?
And the biggest chunk of that is 35 to 44. Then it's 45 to 54.
Wow.
And it's like third or fourth biggest demographic is like 18 to 24.
Women.
Women.
That's amazing. Well, Instagram is a platform that's used more, like I think it's 70-30 women to men that use that platform. That's incredible.
But you know what I think it is? It's when I made the content, or at least started making the content, I was envisioning as like kids my age are going to relate because they have similar immigrant parents.
Right.
But it is the parents who are relating to it, saying, that's me. Like, I have become that parent. So it's interesting to see that, like,
wow,
not necessarily the demographic I envisioned creating my content for, but it's been amazing. And honestly, because they're all older, they're so nice. The comments are so nice. Like, nowadays, like, my generation and people younger than me, like, it's a lot of hate. It's a lot of people who feel like it's uncool to show love. You know what I mean? But it's like the people that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, like, they're so quick to show love and appreciation. So it's like I love that is my main demographic.
Well, you're also your character comes from a place of love. It is tough love,
absolutely,
but it's love.
Absolutely.
The Uncle Yusuf character,
yeah. There is something I've been wanting to ask you ever since I met you.
Okay.
I wanted to talk to you about your relationship with Kobe.
Okay.
Because from all of the videos I've seen, all the several interviews you did with him, it really seemed like somehow you were able to kind of break his shell and have him be very comfortable around you and get him to be much more personal than he was at the time. How do you think you accomplished that? How did you do that? How did you get him to be like? It really seemed like he was your friend, even though it's like it looked like he wasn't a big fan of you. Like it always looked like you said, I have a place of love. You know what I mean?
Yeah. When I popped up on his radar was the season after he'd gone through like a whole legal situation in Eagle, Colorado, where he'd be in court and then fly out to a game. So that was the 2004-05 season, and then I popped up in 2005 and 6, early 2005. So when I went in there asking Kobe about like bandwagon fans, and these are the first few bits that I asked, what are bandwagon fans like in LA? Do you like them? Can you draw a bandwagon for me? And he's like, I can't draw for shit. I got Phil Jackson to draw one, and Phil Jackson actually told me not to touch him. I put my arm around him, and he's like, yeah, you can interview me, you can ask me questions, but don't touch me. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I thought we were friends. So there's that, and then what posters did you have in your... So the first time I met him, I spoke to him 3 times. Because in the NBA at that time, you could speak to players after morning shoot-around, 90 minutes before the game, and after the game. So there's a lot of access. So you can get a person at some point in those 3 availabilities. Kevin Garnett only liked to speak after the games. But Kobe, at that time, was... So 3 times. And then that was in December of 05. Then I saw him in February of 06 at the All-Star game in Houston. And I asked him about why are things bigger in Texas? And then I asked him for his phone number. I'd always ask him for his phone number or his address, and he would never give it to me. And that was a running bit. So early he learned that, this guy's just here for the fun and games, the hijinks and the tomfoolery. So that helped to earn his trust. Because there were All-Star games are like thousands of media descend on whatever that city is, and then people have various stories they're going to do, but they're all kind of, unless you're creating a story about a specific other player and you need sound bites from like 6 people speaking about the excellence of like Tim Duncan, or you're doing something about sneakers, it's hard to stand out there. And I would always go in with something goofy. And I got him to sing to me once, which was awesome. He said, "You look like AC Green. Please don't call me anymore." He goes, is that good? I'm like, that's wonderful. And then I got out of there. So yeah, early on, he's like, okay, I know what this guy's about. Mm-hmm. And every time I would see him, I would bring some props. So I brought him pillows and CDs for a sleepover. And then I brought pajamas for a sleepover. And then I brought him a key to my house. Like, can I have a key to your house? He's like, no, we use retina scans. And then the next time I brought him lunch, I'm like, you have a game tonight, here's some lunch. And I put it in like a Twilight. We went to Target or Walmart, got like the most like fangirlish stuff, like a little, Twilight, the movie with the vampires and Bella and whatever the hell Robert Pattinson's character's name was. Lunchbox, filled it with some treats. So there was always like a gag and a joke, and he thankfully, I never got to ask him, why did you choose me as the person that you were going to let your guard down with? Unfortunately, I never did. So I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm happy that he did. Mm. I'm very blessed that he did.
How did you hear about his passing? Somebody
called me, called. It was like a Sunday. He's like, have you seen TMZ? I'm like, no, what happened? He goes, check TMZ. I checked it out. I was in disbelief, and I spent hours just refreshing the front page. Yeah. And I believe, like, since it was on TMZ, I'm like, this is legit, because TMZ rarely misses. Once TMZ broke the news about Michael Jackson's death in 2009, that established it as a legitimate journalistic entity, mm-hmm. and TMZ often beat all the other networks to that kind of news. And yeah, it was. I was living in Las Vegas. It was a Sunday. I remember, heard it, and then I just spent the next day like in a fog, and I was devastated. And then a bunch of people were reaching out. I was reaching out to some people. It was almost like the sports world stopped. They were in football games. I remember it was a Sunday because there were moments of silence at football games with the graphic of Kobe's, like his 1978 to 2020, I believe. Not 21. 21? 20. I believe it's 2020.
Mm-hmm. Right before COVID.
Right before COVID, right.
Terrible year.
Oh, man.
2020.
Yeah, it was. So anyway, that's how I found out.
Mm. Yeah, I remember even for me, I remember it was a Sunday too, because I remember I was just, I was living downtown with my roommate going to school. And yeah, first seeing the tweet from TMZ, and then just kind of, yeah, like you said, refreshing, like trying to get more and more information. And then you started hearing different things, that like the whole family was in the helicopter, and then you find out it was just Gigi, and the news just, it felt like it kept getting worse and worse. And I remember, because at the time I was going to Ryerson for sport media, so obviously everyone there are big sports fans. And I remember the next day, Monday, going to a class, and it was one of those classes where the whole sport media year would come together for this one class, and it was just so quiet. Like it really did feel like the world had stopped for like a day.
Yeah, it was wild, man. It was wild. I got to go to his tribute a month later. They had at Staples Center, and the thing that was remarkable about that event, not just the guest list, not just the people that spoke in his honor, and it was a celebration of life. I mean, yeah, I think Beyonce started it, like was open singing, and then Christina Aguilera sung, and I believe, God, if memory serves correctly, Alicia Keys performed.
Wow.
Where I was sitting, it was at center court, so I was looking across to like Shaquille O'Neal and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. To my right, I'm looking across. So just picture, like, the stage was kind of like a boxing ring. So I'm looking over at Michael Jordan, Jay-Z, and Beyonce. And I'm watching how Michael Jordan interacts with Jay-Z and Beyonce. He was like friendlier with Beyonce than Jay-Z. Jay-Z, I think, has got a dap. And then to my left is Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Coach Pop, DeMar. In my section is Dwayne Wade. Steph Curry's a couple seats ahead of me. Klay Thompson, like the NBA world. And I think there were games that night descended on LA to immortalize a very special human and one of their brothers. And the thing that was remarkable was it took about a minute or 90 seconds for people to put their phones away. I would look up into like the 300s, and I could see like some camera flashes and some lights on, but then after a while they just went away. And then people just were present in the moment. And I haven't had one of those moments in a very long time, bro.
They're very few and far between nowadays.
Like, unless you're at a Dave Chappelle show and Dave Chappelle's like, put your phones put your phones on the case. That's a terrible Chappelle. I got to stop doing accents because they're absolutely.
I love Chappelle. That wasn't Chappelle.
No, that wasn't Chappelle. I'm not Jay Farrow, and that was freaking terrible. So yeah, unless you're at a Dave Chappelle show, then you're rare to have one of those moments. Do you remember at the beginning of the year? I think it was in Paris, and it was like I can't remember what the name of that street is leading to the Arc de Triomphe. There's just like a million cameras just like pointed at the Arc. It was like this huge boulevard, and then fireworks were being shot off, I think, from the Arc de Triomphe. But anyway, everybody's got phones out for everything, because it's like, I don't know, what's the line? Like, if you don't take a photo, it's not real, or something like that, some idiom.
I understand part of it. I even, like, last year I went to Korea, and I've forgotten so many parts of it, and I was going through my pictures yesterday. I'm like, oh yeah, I did do that. So I get it, but for a moment like that, like, you got to put it away and like just take it in. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And hopefully I don't forget that moment ever.
Yeah.
I'm going to get older and I'm going to start forgetting stuff, but it's good to document our lives, because we do. You're just saying, I forgot about moments in Korea, and it's good to have those memories.
I had a question for you. So you said you were living in Vegas at the time.
Yeah.
That's when you were with Bleacher Report. I'm going to Vegas next week for the first time.
Is there a fight, or is there an event?
No, just, it's really funny. I won a trip to Vegas with my girlfriend. So over the summer, I got invited to, it was essentially a casino on a boat that went around Lake Ontario. And anyone that went was just put into a raffle to win a trip to Vegas. And like 2 weeks, I had completely forgotten about it after I left the boat. And then 2 weeks later, they sent me an email, and they're like, you won the trip? I'm like, awesome.
Sick.
So I'm going with my girlfriend.
So how many nights? 2 nights or 3 nights?
It's just 2 nights, but it's
perfect time.
Basically, we get there like it's weird. It's a Monday to Wednesday. Okay. I got to pick the days, but we built it around the Tuesday is our anniversary.
Oh, nice.
So it's like, yeah, why don't we go to Vegas for our anniversary?
Nice.
So we get there like Monday at like 11 a.m., but our flight on Wednesday night is like late. It's like 11:30 at night.
Oh, so it's like
a
red eye.
Yeah.
Oh man,
so
it's tough.
It's gonna be tough, but it's almost like 3 full days. In Vegas. We're staying at the Wynn.
Oh, nice.
So what do you recommend? I've never been.
Got to eat at Carbone.
Okay.
You have to take in a show. I love the show called Absinthe. It's
Mhm.
in like a tent around Caesars. It's hilarious. If you can see, I mean, I don't know how much the tickets. Like, I don't know if even Usher's still doing his residency. I think he's gearing up to do a tour. But yeah, Monday to Wednesday. Okay, yeah.
We're already going to see Cirque du Soleil. That's
Okay,
like one of
cool.
the shows. I don't even know which one.
I
Besides
recommend
that, yeah.
Absinthe. If there's, man, you're probably not gonna have enough time to do this, but there's I don't know. Hopefully, these guys are still in business. There's something called the Lip Smacking Foodie Tour.
Okay.
You guys are foodies.
Yeah.
It's pricey, but you hit like 4 or 5 different restaurants on the strip, and you have like amazing tour guide, and it's your belly will you might get the itis by 10, 15. You're like you'll need dessert and a couple of coffees so that you're able to walk back to your hotel.
I don't mind that because the trip was paid for. So I'm like, if I have to pay for a little bit more like stuff, then that's like not a big deal.
There are this particular one we went on. There was like a Greek restaurant. Oh man, what's it called? God, I think it's in the Aria. There was a Spanish restaurant we went to. Lip Smacking Foodie Tour. So I'd recommend a foodie tour. Gotta go to Carbone to eat. We did a anniversary. My wife and I did a helicopter tour to the oh my gosh, the Grand Canyon.
Okay, nice.
Where you can land inside the Grand Canyon. You stay there for like 20 minutes, but it's cool. It's quiet. There are helicopters there. You got to pay to sit in the front because you don't want to sit in like the back because then you won't get like great views from like one side.
For sure.
That one again is pricey, so choose your spots. And then the show Absinthe. If you can see Absinthe, it's awesome. You won't regret it.
Gotcha. I feel like you're a foodie too. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, because I'm fat. I mean, fat people are just naturally foodies. Yes.
So okay, I know you lived in Toronto for a very long time. What's your favorite spot in the city?
Little Sister. Little Sister is a Indonesian Dutch spot. There are 2 locations.
Okay.
One close to you, like Portland, and in between King and Adelaide.
It has like a sister restaurant, doesn't it?
That's the sister restaurant.
Yeah.
The main one is at Yonge and Davisville.
Okay.
It's my favorite spot. And then there's an Armenian place that I just ate last night. I took one of my friends who called Mairik.
Okay.
And that's at like Bayview and Eglinton.
Gotcha.
A low-key spot. I mean, Bayview and Eglinton's a little bit older kind of demo that's lives in that area. So it's not a place that it's like vibey, like
Good food's
downtown.
good food.
Yeah, but great. Good.
Yeah.
You're correct. Yeah, good food is good food. So those are my 2 favorite spots.
Yeah. Honestly, doing my food page with my girlfriend, we've started to realize like how overrated so many of these spots are. Like the reason we want to make the page is because it feels like every video you see on TikTok, you have to try this food. This is the best food in the city. And it's like, it's just expensive. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you can find these holes in the wall that just have fantastic food. Like one of my favorites is this place called Yummy Yummy Dumplings on, it's near Spadina and Dundas. And it's just like a mom and pop shop. They serve you food on paper plates, but like the best soup dumplings in the city. And like my girlfriend and I feast, like we're stuffed for like $60. And it's like, you go to any like mid to high end restaurant in Toronto and like $60 is like fucking appetizer.
Yeah. What was the I know I saved your video, but you had one of these like hot Nashville chicken joints. Oh God, this is probably like 4 or 6 months ago. Maybe it was in the summertime, but you had one where you reviewed. It was like a giant. It was almost like 2 breaded chicken patties in a chicken sandwich. I can't remember. I got to go back through your.
I think chicken sandwiches. We've done Knockout Chicken and we've done Alouette Go and a place called Chicken and Dough. Those are the 3 that we've done. Alouette Go was really good. The others were like they were okay.
Oh, okay.
But we're still on a hunt to find the best chicken sandwiches. I'll let you know when I find it.
I got to work out today at 4:25. So maybe eating a deep fried chicken sandwich for
Not
lunch
the best
isn't
idea.
the best idea. I should probably eat light and then just reward myself after the workout with like a deep fried chicken sandwich.
Cabbie, before I let you go, this is my girlfriend's idea. I was like, what do you think I should ask Cabbie? And she's like, you should do a rapid fire. Ask him a bunch of sports questions. I'm like, okay, let's do it. Let's do it and see what he says. So these are 1-word answers, yes or no, or you just got to pick between the 2 very quickly. Yes or no, is esports a sport?
No.
Will Mahomes finish his career as the GOAT?
Ooh. No.
Okay. Will Canada or the U.S. ever win a World Cup?
In your lifetime, yes.
Not in yours.
Not in my lifetime.
Okay, and these ones just pick the player. Bird or Magic?
Magic.
Ali or Tyson?
It's sacrilegious if you say anybody else but Muhammad Ali. So Muhammad Ali.
Fair. Messi or Ronaldo?
Messi.
And LeBron or Jordan?
Oh, God. Yeah, this is a great one.
Feels like every year it becomes more and more of a conversation.
For basketball skills, dribbling, passing, shooting, LeBron. For, for greatness, Michael. For excellence, LeBron. And you're splitting hairs of greatness.
Yeah, I like that.
That wasn't a great... I needed so many qualifiers. And the one that hurt me the most is the Patrick Mahomes one.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Because
like,
he's still far away. But
he's got 2 MVPs. He's got to get to 5 to get to Manning. At least, and 4 to catch Rodgers, 5 to Manning.
Chris is nodding over there. He's like, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he's 28. And I'm sure there'll be so many all pros. But MVPs for sure, and then the titles are the cherry on top. But I think the meat, the bulk of the cake is MVP. And then records. MVPs and records, and then championships are like, that's where you get the nice soft filling, or not filling, that icing. And
yeah.
You dip your finger in the batter and you eat. I end up eating like a full handful of icing while you're making the cake.
Cabbie, man, thank you so much for
coming on. My pleasure.
On.
This is a lot of fun.
I feel like we didn't even talk about enough sports as we should have. So I gotta have you next time you come to Toronto. We'll do it up again.
Yes, I look forward to a boxing class.
Yeah.
Having a meal and then doing another pod.
Absolutely. To everyone watching, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you. Whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, thank you so much, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening.
Exactly.
Listen. I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know anything about the pod. But I legitimately